Welcome back to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I am Connor Williams, and this is another 24/7 news report video. As always, we start with the headline news, and the headline news this evening is about the manager, and it is breaking news at the time of recording. Davide Ancelotti is seriously considering Everton's offer to become manager. David is attracted to the idea of being a Premier League manager. Real Madrid are aware of the situation. That's come from Marca, in Spain. And then the Mail Sport have also said Davide Ancelotti, son of Real Madrid and former Everton manager Carlo Ancelotti, has been discussed as a potential alternative to Marcelo Bielsa. We ran a poll on the Toffee Blues saying Davide Ancelotti at Everton. Leave us your thoughts. 5,410 of you voted. 57.5% of you said yeah. 20.3% said no. And 22.2%, 22.2% said no. 20.3% of you said I don't know. This is honestly mental, in my opinion. I know it's opinions and everyone's entitled to them, so here's mine. I think if you're voting yes, I think it's mental. And I almost think that if we hire him and it goes badly, it's on you. You can't complain about it because you've made the active choice to support that. I'd argue I could be convinced to change my opinion if somebody can tell me what formations he play, what styles he play, what styles he play, what type of pressing does he play. Can you tell me any of that? No. The problem is people are saying that he did the corners at Everton and free kicks. That's fantastic. Brilliant. So a set piece coach is probably a good one that he could be. And that his dad is Carlo Ancelotti. There are rumors that people are saying he ran the train. He didn't run he might have helped out with the training, but people are making it sound like he did all the hard work and his dad just took the credit. That's not how it worked at all. And you're kidding yourself if you think it was. Yeah, I don't even know if the fella's got his pro license or if he did. He's only just got it. So that's one to watch out for. We are in a really, really tough spot. Really tough, really, really tough. And people are suggesting we hire a man who's never managed a football club before because he's got a famous last name. That is the type of behavior that has caused MOSHIRI has. And I get people that want to be optimistic, and maybe in the summer I could go, yeah, he's worth the chance because if it goes wrong, we sack him in December and we move on, done. But we're in January and we've got a relegation battle. We can't afford to have him for a month and then see what happens. If it goes badly, we're in deep trouble. And I can't believe how. I mean, it is all opinions, and you are entitled to them. But I can't believe how many aren't thinking about this logically. Do you really gamble the future of this club on a man just because his dad's famous? And I tweeted this out. Tell me his style. Tell me everything. Nobody could tell me his style or the formation he prefers because nobody knows. Because he has the one reply I got was like, "Well, nobody knows." Yeah, that's exactly my point. Nobody knows this. This unlike Bielsa, who's got experience, this could be even worse. When we hired Frank Lampard, I said my problem with him was that he's a novice in management and he'd managed two clubs. And I said he still wasn't experienced enough to manage Everton. People say they don't want Wayne Rooney because he's not experienced enough. But everybody's throwing themselves at Davide Ancelotti, who's managed zero clubs. What a silly gamble this is. And people will say, well, what about Arteta? Because he learned under Pep. Arteta is an example of assistant that goes on to be a good manager, but that's one. For every one that you can speak of, there are almost double the amount that don't. Any of Sir Alex Ferguson's, for example, any of his assistants, none of them feeling. No, Brian Kidd, no. And they learn under a world-class manager. Steve McLaren, that didn't exactly go well. Carlos Queiroz didn't go well either. Like I said, Phelan, there's four from one of the greatest managers, if not the greatest he's the greatest British manager, might be the greatest manager ever. There's 4 of his assistants that didn't work out. So all the people going, yeah, but he's under Ancelotti, he must have learned something. Well, there's 4 straight from Sir Alex Ferguson, a world-class coach that didn't work out. I think it's crazy. I think it's so crazy. Like Gary Neville, there's another one who was an assistant that was a bad manager. Sammy Lee, there's another one that didn't go very well his time at Bolton. Tony Adams, there's another one. And some of these are ex-players that, were very, very clever. Tony Adams was a very good defender. You'd hope that at football. I just honestly, if you can tell me what I've asked for, my opinion might be changed. And I might be a bit more positive about it. But if the only reply you've got against my argument is he must have learned something from his dad, I think that's such a look at Arteta. They're really cop out arguments, and they're not gonna. I just think that's such a silly gamble when a club can't afford to go into relegation. It's mad. Moving on from Davide Ancelotti, Moshiri is still intent on convincing Marcelo Bielsa to take over at Everton. Have persuaded him to come for face-to-face talks. That's come from Miguel Delaney. The Mail Sport also backed that up by saying Bielsa has arrived in London for talks with the Everton board. Everton feared Bielsa would turn them down after his concerns of the lack of pace in the squad. Everton refused to give up hope on convincing him. Chris Bascom as well added on Bielsa, saying Bielsa has agreed to meet the Everton officials, but still requires a lot of convincing over the quality of the squad and the current improvements required. Moshiri still wants to explore every avenue before moving on from Bielsa. So it looks like Moshiri has got a real desperateness for Bielsa. And it looks like it might be Bielsa or really strange bust. So that's come from Chris Bascom, who writes for the Merseyside. He's for the Telegraph. He's the Merseyside football correspondent. Then the Telegraph said that talks have been held with Marcelo Bielsa and Deitch, but Deitch's enthusiasm and Bielsa's reservations may reluctantly persuade Moshiri to concede defeat to the pursuit of the South American. Quickly before we get on to Deitch, because there is some more on Deitch, my overall thoughts on Bielsa: better than Davide Ancelotti because he's experienced. I don't think we've got the players for him. I think if he came in the last summer, or any summer, if we stayed up and he came in, maybe, but we'd have to stay up, maybe, because we need a lot of players for his style. 4 days left of the window isn't enough time to get him what he needs. If we go down, I know he said he doesn't mind that, but the club will, and he will need so many players if we go down, because our best players will leave because they don't want to play in the Championship because they're far too good for that, and that's fair enough. We will struggle to convince players to come to us because Everton have this bad habit of going for targets that other clubs are going for, and you've got to then hope that none of those other clubs are Premier League or newly promoted Premier League, because players will go to them over the Championship. So he will need already 4 or 5 new players, but if we go down, he needs 7 or 8, and that's if Everton can afford it FFP wise. He just screams that he needs a lot of stuff that we just can't do, and I think Bielsa knows that himself. So unless Moshiri offers him silly amounts of money, I can't see why he'd take this if he's already got his reservations. He would need a full 11, brand new 11 potentially. There's only a couple of players, I think, Onana being one, Godfrey being another, that I think would suit him. Patterson maybe being another. There's 3 of the 11 that I think would suit him. Dominic Calvert-Lewin if he stays fit, but I have a feeling this would kill him off. Yerry Mina, this would kill him off. So yeah, Bielsa, a little bit odd. Before I get into Deitch, though, this just sums up the state of Everton Football Club. So Moshiri really wants Bielsa, and then his alternatives are Sean Deitch or Davide Ancelotti. Anyone tell me where the logic is in that? One plays really expansive, high energy football. The other plays pressing, but pragmatic. He presses in a 4-4-2, Deitch, but he does like to keep his players organised in a 4-4-2. with creative freedom at points, but ultimately does value that it's not going to be 11 men everywhere like Bielsa, and he's a bit more defensive than Bielsa. That's fair. That's fair to say. And Davide Ancelotti, that nobody knows anything about. How are they? How is there any link between those three? There's no plan at this club for stuff like this. Um, but anyway, Sean Dyche has emerged as a preferred candidate. It's likely that to be an initial short-term measure in the hope he can lead the side out of the drop. If he impresses, that could open up for a long-term contract from Chris Bascombe. We did a poll as well asking who you want as your Everton manager. 3,045 of you voted. Davide Ancelotti is winning with 48.6%. I've said my feeling on that. Dyche is in second with 31.4, and Marcelo Bielsa is in third with 24.4. These have just moved as I was reading them out. There's 5,419, and David now has 44.3. Not going to get into that again. I think that's weird and mental. But yeah, where's the logic in those three though? Because they're all vastly different. One of them's got no experience and nobody knows anything about. One plays high intensity open football, and the other plays a bit better pressing, but nowhere near as high intensity, a bit more rigid in a 4-4-2. On Dyche, I think that offer is, I think it's insulting to him, but it's obviously good for us. But it is quite insulting to him. If MOSHIRI really wants Bielsa, what I would say is give it to Dyche on a short term, and if he manages to escape us from the drop, but it doesn't look any better, he just manages, and MOSHIRI still wants Bielsa, then go get him while we're in the Prem. And that's a fair enough. But if Dyche impresses, give it him. Don't let Dyche impress you. If you're MOSHIRI and then go, I still want Bielsa though, because that's quite insulting. But maybe that way round it works. If Dyche just manages to keep us up, be it luck or whatever, and people go, yeah, it's not worked out for him there, then go for that in the short term. But I don't know if Dyche accepts that. That seems quite insulting to a football manager, especially one that's still relatively young in his career. He's managed Watford and Burnley. He doesn't want to be labelled as a Sam Allardyce this early on. Moving on from the manager mess, we have that Onana has refused Chelsea and wants to stay at Everton to focus on the rest of the season, which is absolutely brilliant to hear. Absolutely love the kid. It's the right attitude to have. This has come via Sacha Talvaleri, who is a journalist. The Belgian journalist, he even announced Onana's signing. He's very, very good with the Belgian links. He's normally on the money, to be fair. We also have some news about Anthony Gordon. Anthony Gordon, Everton's position on him has weakened, and it's now believed the club will be forced to accept an offer worth just over 40 million, including add-ons, which may be closer to Newcastle's valuation. That came from Matt Law of the Daily Telegraph. The Mail Sport added, Anthony Gordon's has told Everton he will not return to training as he's trying to force a move away. The club are in formal talks, but there's yet to be a deal to be agreed between us and Newcastle. The Mail Sport also said Everton's 55 million valuation for Gordon goes above what Newcastle are willing to offer. Chris Wood was offered to them as part of a swap deal, but he just agreed to join Nottingham Forest. That's a bit of a mental swap. It's a shame how this has gone. Me and James have got a video coming out about Anthony Gordon, James Pendleton, and we discuss it a bit more. It's just a shame that another local lad and it's ended this badly. I think Everton have to sell him now though, because it's gone too far beyond repair now with the fans and everything. I don't think he'll ever be fully accepted back. This has just ended up awfully, hasn't it? We also have that Mikel Antonio has admitted he's in talks to leave West Ham. Everton and Wolves are interested. That came from the Mail Sport. If you like Antonio, I think he'd do a job for us. He's a fast lad, big, well-built, can finish, decent player. Matt Law from the Daily Telegraph says Everton are believed to have already lined up a bid to try and sign Marco Arnautovic from Italian club Bologna if they can raise enough cash. So that'll be the Anthony Gordon money, although we're looking at forwards like strikers, and if Anthony Gordon goes, we are desperately in need of a winger because the only three wingers at this club are Damari Gray, Neil Moy, Dwight McNeil, and Andros Townsend. So yeah, and Andros Townsend is yet to return from injury. So we desperately need a winger now. We have some possibly good news in all of this. US investment firm MSP Sports Capital have held preliminary discussions about buying a stake in Everton Football Club. That's come from I think that's from the Guardian business. I read the other day that these have got a bit of money from is it NBA or NFL Fallout, something like that. It's come from Bloomberg, sorry. So it'll be very interesting. It's probably be what pushes the stadium over the line, which is great news. I'm all for this. I don't know who they are, but they own a bit of Augsburg and a couple of other sports teams. But yeah, all for this bit of money in the club. And we also have that Duncan Ferguson's been appointed as new manager of EFL League One side Forest Green Rovers. Wish him the very best of luck. This is what he needed to do, go out and earn his stripes. Forest Green, I don't know what position they're in. I think it might be a tough job for him. But all the best to him. It's been interesting watching him eat the vegan burgers and stuff today. And his interview on the climate change was eye-opening. It wasn't quite Greta Thunberg, but it was something. All the best to him though, all the best. On top of Duncan Ferguson going there, Tyler Onyango will also be going to Forest Green and joining up with Duncan Ferguson. That came from Alan Myers today as well. I think where they can, the club are going to do their best to help him out, especially with loaning players, and I'm all for that as well. The players need experience, so why not? But that's all we got time for. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and comment down below your thoughts on anything we've discussed.